Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is December 14th, 2022, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hey, what's up out there? This is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. As far as my picks are concerned, I like to get that out of the way really quick. I didn't do that well this year. I'm sorry, last week. I was only what was I, 8-5. There were several teams on the bye last week, but I can't use that as an excuse. This has undoubtedly been a season of a lot of improbable wins, if not downright upsets week after week after week. So that's the only thing that I can say in my own defense. I'm thinking I'm making really good picks. I'm analyzing these teams as best I can. I think I knew football pretty well. And then every week there's two or three teams that we all know, including everybody on TV, says there's no way that team's going to win. And then they pull out a win. It's crazy.
Um, that is wild. That is wild. The bias plus report, basically, we use it and talk about who's favored, but it really is a backwards looking report. It really is closer to trend analysis than it is to, forecasting with any particular level of probability. The funny,
Absolutely.
the funny thing about what you said is I actually was watching my girl Cynthia Fralin, and she had her six picks. And I guess it was two sets of six picks. It was like 12 games,
Right.
and she was like 64%, which we did that routinely, last year.
Easy.
This year, early on, the bias plus reports were finished. Were coming in at about a 30% at some point, that low, and it hadn't been that low in a while. So this has been a
No.
wild year. But as the cream has risen to the top, these trends are beginning, I think, to hold better. The bias plus was 85% last week.
Right. Good. Good.
So that's interesting to me, and how this all works. So we've got some great numbers to share with people. People are, starting to take a look at, what we're doing. Oh, when I did your top five in net points, and the Eagles were number one, and all the Eagle fans jumped on it with 3 feet.
Well, that's what they've been waiting for, evidently. I hope they're happy.
I don't think half those people have a clue what average net
Probably
points
not.
means. But I
Probably
remember
not. But
Mark
anytime they see the
said to
Eagles
me, he said,
number,
Eagles are number one. You got them at number 3 because that's where they were 2-3 weeks ago.
right,
And I was like, this is not a win-loss ranking.
right.
This is a net point ranking, and that's how we do it, because it's about who's the bully on the block, who's really getting it done, and a few teams are. So let's get ready to jump into the numbers, and we're going to start again with 21, I believe, through 32. This is the group, Ben, that I believe you're going to poo-poo because a lot of these people are no longer in the playoffs.
Or their chances are
They're just
slim to
about
none.
mathematically eliminated. Let me put it that way. There might be some small probability.
Oh, I see something right off the bat.
Go ahead.
The Chargers, every time we talk about this group for the last 2 weeks at least, every time we've talked about this group from 21 to 32, the Chargers have been sitting somewhere around 26 or 25. And I said, I only see one team in this group that I still believe has an opportunity to make the playoffs for sure. And that would be the LA Chargers. They have creeped up to 21 and are threatening to get into the second group.
Get into that mid tier.
Right. Once you get in the mid tier, anything can happen.
Okay. Okay. All right. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. Offensively, well, first of all, let's just run through it again. ANP stands for average net points, APF for average points for. That's your scoring. Offensively, APA average points against. That's your defense, holding teams to averages, and ATOD standing for average turnover differential, and turnovers eventually equate to points. 21 through 32 is the list here. As far as net points are concerned, you're looking at the LA Chargers, then the Saints, then the Giants. Your Giants at 23, Benny. Tennessee, Green Bay, Denver, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Arizona, the Rams, the Super Bowl Rams at 30, 31, the Colts, and 32, Houston at minus 7.9. Your range is from negative 2.4 to negative 7.9. And again, average net points and average turnover differential can range both from positive to negative. They average net points is the difference between your points for and your points against. And we like to let people know exactly where they are. Now, in terms of scoring, you know, those Saints coming in at 21st. Now, you got about a three-way tie just about at 20.4, 0.3, and 0.2 between the Saints, the Jets, and Green Bay, okay? Then Carolina finishes out at an even 20. Washington is at 19.5, then number 25. Then you have Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay at 17.2. And Ben, I'm going to say this now, and you can argue it with me however long you want to. Brady misses Gronk.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, the Gronk, man. He was there, and you know, he only made he won once without him. But life was so much easier later on in life. Anyway, that was 28. 29 is the Rams in scoring. So again, look where the Rams are in scoring, 29th. Houston, 16.2, Indianapolis, 16.1. And at the bottom, number 32, the Denver Broncos, 14.9. The indictment of Russell continues. That is just sad. Anyway, looking at the defensive side from 21 to 32, you got a range of about basically three points, maybe a little bit more in a fraction, 23.2 down to 26.8. 32nd place is Arizona, giving up 26.8 points per game. Now, Ben, how much have I been talking about Detroit and Seattle being congruent in the way that they're operating with a high-scoring offense and a stank-butt defense? Look who's number 30 and 31.
Right.
Okay.
However, again, I must remind folks, Detroit at one point was giving up 34 points a game. Now they're giving up 26.7. And with their high-flying offense, that little improvement, actually, that's not a little improvement. That's more than a touchdown difference.
I hear you. But as I look at the numbers that are there, it looks like everybody's defense got better because the worst defense is only giving up 26.8 points per game. Nobody's giving up in the 30s right now. So the averages have gotten a lot closer. They've compressed. There's only basically a 3-point average between 21 and 32. But that is still a conspicuous group of teams between Green Bay, Atlanta, Miami. If you got playoff contention, you should not be 23rd on defense. The Raiders, Minnesota, another team. And I heard somebody, got a few Kirk Cousins supporters there who pointing out that it's really the defense that's letting them down this year. Houston, Cleveland, the Chargers, that ain't going to get it done. Chicago, Seattle, Detroit. We talked about those two guys being the twins of the NFC, and then Arizona. So those are that's the defensive points allowed. That's what these teams are giving up on average. Turnover differential on average, as you can see, all negative numbers ranging from 0.2, negative 0.2 to negative 1.1. Indianapolis is in 32nd place. If we go up from 32nd, you have New Orleans, the Rams, Kansas City, Houston, Cleveland, Miami, Chicago, Vegas, Green Bay, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. So I guess somebody got to be in the bottom third. But a lot of these teams are teams that you expect to be in the playoffs, and they're in the bottom third of turnover differential. What you got on this, Benny, before we move on?
Well, there's some teams in the different columns that we expected to be better in the beginning of the year. There's no doubt about it. There are some teams that are very low in average points for, but we'll find them in average points against much higher. And that is kind of keeping them afloat. I mean, the numbers are what they are. Everybody is what their record says they are. Okay. And if you're listed in the lower level of any of these categories, chances are you're not in strong contention, but could possibly be in possible contention for a playoff spot, depending on how well you're playing on the opposite side of the ball. So you can't, that's why I don't want to say this team's defense stinks or this team, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're still winning games, nobody says the Kansas City Chiefs defense stinks except me. And I only say that because I like to get on Chiefs fans' nerves because I'm tired of messing with Eagles fans. But Chiefs fans seem to think that there's nothing better, as they should. They've had a lot of success. But believe me, their defense really is only good as their offense is. And they're able to play off the momentum that they get from the offense, which is outstanding. So that difference doesn't mean as much, even though we look at the numbers and say, wow, that's really bad. Wow, that's really good. The good outweighs the bad. Does this make sense what I'm saying? It doesn't go for everybody.
It would make more sense if Kansas City was down in this section, but they're not. So
they were, though.
They're not now.
They're not now. So they've improved, but you just said everybody has.
You ready to go to the next group?
Sure, why not? If everybody's improving, they're supposed to improve too.
Well, there's your Kansas City.
Works its way up.
I see your Kansas City right off the bat. We'll go to them in a minute.
Right.
But this is 11 to 20. Okay. And in terms of net points, and again, positive and negative, you'll see both in this particular group with Miami, Detroit, and Jacksonville finishing out the positive side, ranking 11 through 13 at 0.3, 0.2, and 0. Jacksonville Jaguars literally breaking even in terms of points allowed and points scored. Then you have Minnesota on the negative side. Now, Minnesota's been hanging around there and keeping their head above water, but they're starting to slip under. Washington's just under. These are negative 0.1, negative 0.2, negative 0.4. That takes you down to Vegas at 16. At 17, 18, 19, and 20, you have Cleveland, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Carolina. And Cleveland and Atlanta are tied at negative 1.8. Tampa Bay and Carolina are tied at negative 2.3. So this is an interesting group here who could go in either direction. I'll stop there, Benny, if you want to talk about the net point group.
Well, of course, as far as I'm concerned, net points is the most important column because that's your overall ranking when all the other rankings are taken into consideration. Yeah, Miami's sitting there just outside the top 10. Okay, fine. But recency bias tells me that these guys are beginning to struggle, especially at where their strength was supposed to be, which is their offense. So then I look over on the offensive category and I don't see them. Were they in the bottom? No, they're probably in the top. But defensively, they were in the lower tier that we just left. That's going to drag them down. That's what I was talking about with Kansas City. Well, you know what? I was about to say something incorrect. Miami didn't come in with the top-ranked offense. They came in with the top-ranked passing game. And even that suffered recently. So, again, we're in the second tier. 14 teams make it. So if you have Minnesota at 14 in average net points, I say they have still a strong possibility to make it. along with a team like Washington. Everybody under them, it's not looking really good. It's not looking good at all. And
The only thing that
strange as it may seem, Detroit sitting at 12, I'm more afraid of them than I am of Miami.
The other interesting part about the playoffs is that it depends on where you are in a division, and you can have a stank butt net points, but if you're top in your division, you might still get a playoff spot.
No, you won't. Might you will.
You will. So, offensively, in terms of points scored, we're in the 23 to 20 point range. So you're talking about Vegas, Baltimore, Cleveland, the Chargers, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Arizona, New England, Chicago, and your Giants at 20. So these teams are averaging about 23 points, no more than 23 points per game. That's what they're putting out on average. And you know, when we talk about Baltimore, I came across an interesting little piece of information. We'll talk about it when we get to there. But you know, Baltimore is kind of like my Niners. The quarterbacks are dropping like flies, man. Team for defense, average points against, you're looking at around 20 to 23 points per game. So it's just the inverse in actuality. If you look at the points for, where it's 23 down to 20, here it's 20 up to 23. And again, Cincinnati, Tennessee, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, the Rams, New Orleans, Kansas City. Now, Kansas City is 22.9. They're tied with Indianapolis Colts, and they're just a step above your New York Giants, who are allowing 23.1 points per game. In terms of the average turnover differential, only the bottom three are in the negative. That's Atlanta, the Jets, and Tennessee. That's 18 through 20. You have a three-way tie in the middle there, 15 through 17, with Washington, Pittsburgh, and Arizona breaking even at 0. And then on the positive, you got a four-way tie at 0.2. So that's 11 through 14 with Buffalo, the Giants, Cincinnati, and Seattle. So at least they're on the positive side of the turnover differential, although that's not contributing a whole bunch to them relative to points, but hey, beats a blank. So, you know, sometimes you only need 1 point, not sometimes, you only need 1 point to win, because they don't do fractions during the game. But that's your mid-level group there, Betty. What you think about that?
I think there's still too much can happen with this group. Let's go to the big boys.
What? We didn't want the top 10 or something?
Yeah, definitely. This is just too much. Too much can still happen. I mean, I hear what you said about a lot of this depends on what kind of division you're in and where you stand in your division, because we know if you actually win your division, you're going to make the playoffs regardless of your record. The problem is when you look at the NFC South, that's still anybody's ball game. Anybody in that division can still win. The only team that looks like they're in danger of being mathematically knocked out would be the Saints. But Atlanta and Carolina could still win that division.
We have a new number 1. The Philadelphia Eagles have taken over first place in net points at plus 10.6. That means they're beating teams by average of almost 11 points per game. That would be, what would that be? A touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and no, I can't add.
If 11, it was 11, it would 11? Be a touchdown, a 2-point conversion, and a field goal. It's not exactly 11.
There you go, somewhere around there. Buffalo coming in second. They had been pretty much in first place at 10.2, and Dallas coming in at 10.1. So you're in the double figures here with the top 3 averaging around 10 plus 10 points per game. That means they're beating teams by an average of 10 points per game. My Niners are coming in at 4th at plus 9.2. Kansas City at plus 6.6. Cincinnati at plus 5.4, Baltimore plus 3.9. That's 5, 6, and 7. 8, 9, and 10 is New England at 2.3. The Jets at 1.6, and Seattle at 0.6. That's shaving it close there, Seattle. Points for Philadelphia. Top scoring team in the league is taking over first place from Kansas City. Benny, your team contributed to this, you know. You have only your Giants to blame for these guys being up there like this. This could be considered a skew, because I don't think they really beat anybody that by that big a margin. But in any event, they're scoring 29.7, right above Kansas City, 29.5, and Dallas coming in third, 27.7. Buffalo coming in fourth, 27.2, and Detroit, 26.8. Now, Ben, how many rankings was Detroit and Seattle apart when we looked at the bottom third? They were consecutive. Look where they are scoring-wise.
The bottom third in what? Net points?
When we looked at the bottom third for average points against defensively, remember?
Oh, right. They were very close.
They were consecutive. They were consecutive. Here we are on offense, and they are again consecutive.
Very interesting.
So Cincinnati starts at 25.6 average per game. My Niners are coming in at 24.4. They have moved up because they were in the mid group at one point. Miami is 24.3 and Minnesota at 24. So you're looking at a spread of about 5 points between the top scoring team and the bottom scoring team. Maybe closer to 6 if you add that 0.7 in there. That's between 1 and 10. Defensively, my Niners coming in first at 15.2. They're allowing 15.2 points per game. Buffalo right behind them at 17, and Dallas coming in at 17.6. You got to run on 18-point averages, 18.3, 4, and 7 between Denver, New England, and the Jets. Again, Denver having the 4th-ranked defense, further indictment. Why do I keep beating up on Russell like that, Benny?
Because it's easy.
It is easy. It's true, too. And you got to point it out. I mean, how can you have a 4th-ranked defense and the last-ranked offense and you're Russell Wilson? It's just, that ain't supposed to happen. Okay, let's just put it that way. Anywho, New England coming in at 5th. You know, people are trying to talk about whether or not New England's coach is the greatest of all time, since he's not winning at a high level without Tom Brady. But his defense is still, he got 2 defensive, even his offenses, people are defensive coaches, so defense should be doing good. The Jets are right behind them at 18.7, and then Philadelphia coming in 7th at 19.1 points they're allowing. Baltimore 19.2, Tampa Bay 19.5, and Washington 19.7. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of almost split half and half between AFC and NFC there. And turnover differential, so that's the 3rd number 1 spot that Philadelphia has. They're first in net points and points for, and in turnover differential at plus 1.1. So that is some good work right there. Buffalo's holding up numbers, the 2nd place. Kansas City is 2nd in scoring, 29.6. Buffalo is 17 on defense. They're allowing 17. I think I said that. And then 2nd place in turnover differential is Baltimore. 3rd place, that looks like 0.6 is Dallas. Tie next between San Fran and Minnesota, 0.5. These rankings with San Fran and Minnesota being so close, it's kind of spooky the way I like to talk about Kirk Cousins. I hate him being close to my Niners. 0.4 is Jacksonville. Then your Chargers, 0.3. And then we have a 3-way tie between Detroit, New England, and Denver. at plus 0.2. So that rounds out your top 10 and average net points, points for, points against, and turnover differential. You get to wrap this up, Benny.
Well, obviously, the big boys on the block are the guys that can be in the top 10 in more than one category. Philadelphia's number one in 3 categories. So obviously, they deserve to be number one overall. Buffalo's in the top 10 in two categories. Dallas has swept third ranking in all 4 categories. These are all the better teams.
I hadn't seen that actually, that Dallas was straight across like that in all 4 categories.
Yeah.
It is interesting when you look at it that way. The Niners are 4th in 2 categories, so yeah, you're absolutely right. And then it gets a little more broken up, you know what I mean?
Right. That's why when people talk about power rankings and they immediately say Kansas City right off the bat, you don't see Kansas City except for in one category. And that's the overall net points. And that's in 2 categories because of their scoring. But that's okay. They're not the only one. I'm just saying, when you talk about power, to me, these net point power rankings are the true power rankings. There's no opinion. There's no conjecture. This is straight numbers. This is what you score. This is what you give up. This is what you take away. This is what you give away.
I was having a conversation with our friend Mark, and he saw the top 5 where I had put out with Philly in first place, and he said, "I see you gave Philly, some love there, whatever." I said, "Nah." I said,
"No, we don't give love.
We don't give love."
I mean, I give love when we're doing our pick segment, but this ain't love. This is facts.
I said, Philly put themselves there. I didn't put them there. This is just what they did. This is their numbers. They scored this and they gave up that and they turned over that. And we will take all of this information and put it in the Wayback Machine. No, not the Wayback Machine. What's one of those machines? They have a new fusion device, Benny. Now they're talking about the fusion. Remember the promise of unlimited power that would just last on the eternal basis? Well, they just had a breakthrough in fusion. Now, of course, the actual use of it is 30 years off, but they're touting this breakthrough as, something big. So we put it in the fusion machine, and then we will come out with the bias plus reports that we're going to do in the next segment. So again, just to wrap this up, any last words on the Sterling Pro Football net point power rankings for week 14, 2022, year to date?
No, I'm good with this, man. It's about to be playoff time in fantasy. The regular season for fantasy just ended in week 14. So a lot of fantasy players are either in the playoffs or not. And depending on whether you're in ESPN or CBS or Yahoo, it will or NFLfantasy.com will depend on how your playoffs are run. I know in ESPN, they sometimes take 2 weeks worth of games as one fantasy game. So if you fall behind in your games this week, you still have a chance to advance if you do better the following week. Everybody else is pretty much one and done.
Okay. All right. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you want to talk about this now or not. Remember you kept telling me to play with Brock Purdy?
Yes.
How it turned out? Well,
yes.
I'll let you know how it turned out. I actually have pictures. I got scores and some stats for you.
Okay.
So, okay. Let's go to the bias plus reports. And then we're going to kick this thing off on Thursday night with my Niners visiting the Seattle Seahawks. The bias plus score of 9.8 favors the 49ers. And Brock Purdy has been looking pretty good at quarterback, surprising everybody. He beat the GOAT. But now they're saying he's got a little rib injury. His ribs are a little tender. He might have hurt my Brock, man. No, because if
Are you worried?
they
Are you worried?
well, no, because they got Josh Johnson. He got 10 years
Oh,
experience. He's been in the system three,
no,
four times now. He probably know the hallways as good as Brock. So Brock go down, okay. I want to see what happens. They bring Josh in.
you know what's going to happen when they put Josh in.
What?
Josh is going to play like he normally plays, regardless of who's with. He backed up Brady. He backed up a lot of people. He's been around. You know, he's been
It's
around. You have to dig deep for some Josh Johnson film, but you'll find it. It's out there. But
best job in the NFL.
yeah. Last week the Niners hosted the Buccaneers, speaking of Tom Brady, and not only got another solid performance by rookie third string quarterback Brock Purdy, but they also punched the Buccaneers in the mouth with a dominant run game. They crushed the Bucs 35-7, and he looked really strong doing it. So that lets you know how I feel about your Niners. The Seahawks, on the other hand, who will play host to the Niners this weekend. Last weekend, they were also home, but Geno Smith was betrayed by his lack of a running game. And I think as we go through these games, you're going to find that to be a very repetitive theme, lack of run games. But anyway, yeah, the Seahawks suffered a little bit on the ground because outstanding rookie running back Kenny Walker III is out with an injury, and without him, no other Seattle runner could get anything going on the ground. So Geno had to do his thing. He did toss 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions, and the Seahawks fell to the Panthers. Turnovers will get you every time. Turnovers will get you every time. So even though they're hosting, and even though they'll have the 12th man working for them, I love the Niners defense 100%. I love the Niners defense. And offensively, everything seems to be cooking along just fine. All their skill players are healthy except for Debo, and I think they'll be just fine. So I'm going to take the Niners, obviously.
So you bring up Debo, and I don't know if you remember, I was of the opinion early on that you don't need to make Debo a running back. You got enough running backs, and Debo can be dangerous. Every once in a while, of course, you can do a few things with him, but for the most part, you got 2 number ones, I believe, in Debo and Ayuk, and you got a primo tight end. So your passing game doesn't have to include Debo being a running back. And then this week, of all people, Jerry Rice tweeted out and asked for Kyle Shanahan to stop sending Debo up the middle like he's a running back. I was like, whoa.
Wait. Sending him up the middle on run plays?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
is that how he got hurt?
Yeah. It was, when you're up around those linemen, them big 300-pound, and they're falling all over you and everything, he's a stocky guy. But that's why running backs, that's why they have the entry rates that they have. I mean, that's just how it goes in that. And I've yet to see them, still put out, what's his name? St. Pierre, St. David, whatever. He's still, for some reason, just not being, they're not using. Matter of fact, they went out and got another running back who had been with us before, and I'm forgetting everybody's name. But he's got plenty of running backs. And Christian McCaffrey is Debo-like. Christian McCaffrey, even on the game, I think they finally tuned him up correctly in the things that he can do. He is a receiving deep threat, as well as being able to take a handoff behind center and take it all the way. And if my line stands up, which is the scary part for me, because I only have one player ranked in the 90s and one in the 80s. Everybody else is down in the 60s across my line. So ranking wise, when I look at their physical traits, it doesn't look very impressive, but they played pretty well as a unit. So, you got to give them that. So, and you know what Brock Purdy's brother name is, right?
Bro, he's not good.
Chuba?
I don't know why you keep talking about him.
You checked out Chuba for me?
Yeah.
He's not good.
He's average. He's below average.
He's below average, really?
Nebraska is below that average. Nebraska is not good.
Oh man. Oh well. Maybe he'll get better. Maybe
Maybe he'll get better.
maybe he'll get better. He'll be in a better system somewhere. All right, you going with the Niners?
Yep.
All right, I had enough fun with my Niners. Let's move forward here. Now, that was a Thursday night game. There are 3 Saturday games. Now, let me take
Yeah. It's that time of year.
Yeah, man.
Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah.
Look, they're flexing games and stuff now. So this is the 1:00 game on Saturday. Colts at Vikings, bias plus score of 30. I don't know why I put an X there. 13.1 favors the Vikings. So the Colts must be really stinking it up if it's that wide of a margin. And the Vikings were in the negative, barely, but they're in the negative. So you got 2 negative teams playing each other. But hey, the one that's playing less badly is going to be the one that's favored, and that would be the Vikings. And we know where their problem is on defense. So who you got on this one?
This one's not going to be too hard. The Colts are coming off the bye, but the last time we saw them, they were getting 54 hung on them by Dallas. So let that marinate a little bit in your mind. The Vikings suffered an embarrassment last week themselves on the road in Detroit. A game on the road against a division rival that would allow the Vikings the opportunity to prove their dominance over the division actually turned into the classic trap game. Detroit's defense clamped down on Dalvin Cook, couldn't let him get going or didn't let him get going. That left Kirk Cousins to try and carry the offense with his arm. He did put up great numbers. He was 31 of 41, 425 yards, 2 touchdowns. And he completed 11 passes to Justin Jefferson alone. That was a team record, 223 yards. But the hot and cold defense was extremely leaky in this one and didn't help at all as they fell to Detroit. They are now going to be home. Colts are coming to town. They'll get some things tweaked up on defense. The Vikings will take this.
All right, going with the Vikings. Next up, we have Ravens at Browns. Ben, who do you expect to be the quarterback for the Ravens?
I think Tyler Huntley will be back. He got concussed, right?
Yeah.
But if he's not, it will be very interesting to see Mr. Anthony Brown play again. So let me tell you about this one now. And what's always a big time rivalry, obviously it's a division game, but Ravens Browns is always a big game. The Ravens defeated the Steelers last week in Pittsburgh. That actually broke a 4-game losing streak for them. Even more interesting, Tyler Huntley, who started in place of injured Lamar Jackson, went to the bench with a concussion. That was late in the third quarter. He was replaced by an undrafted rookie, third-string quarterback Anthony Brown, thanks to a strong effort on the ground led by J.K. Dobbins, who just came back off injury, and Gus Edwards, who's been in and out with injury. Brown very calmly marched the Ravens down on a clock-consuming field goal drive to take the lead and another drive late that sealed the win. So it's a big win over Pittsburgh. Ravens-Pittsburgh is a crazy, crazy rivalry. So that was a big game for the Ravens. Now, the Browns, they just aren't very good, especially on defense. And Deshaun Watson's still trying to knock off the rust. And they really, he has no chance without the normally steady run game. So if you can slow down Chubb And Kareem Hunt hasn't even really been getting used that much. This is kind of crazy for the Browns. I don't know if they're giving up. I don't know exactly what's going on. But anyway, I got to take the Ravens over the Browns, even though they're on the road.
Bias plus score of 10.1 favors the Ravens. That's pretty healthy. And the funny thing is, Ben, I was listening about Anthony Brown, and I went to the NFL website and I went to the Baltimore Ravens webpage, and I looked on the depth chart. He's not even listed on the depth chart.
It's crazy, isn't it?
They don't even have him in it, as the third quarterback. They don't have a third quarterback listed. So that is very interesting. And we'll have to make sure that when we do backup quarterbacks, that we include the third stringers in the next.
And try to and maybe I'll have to do some research, see if I can figure out where he came from. He was an undrafted free agent, but I don't know if they took him shortly after the draft or during the season, or if he was on a practice squad somewhere. There's no telling. I was trying to make sure I got all my information in about the games, so I didn't have a chance to look up his little resume.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we'll see.
He did play for Oregon, though.
Okay. He was a Duck.
Yep.
So, okay, you're going with the Ravens. Bias plus score 10.1 favors the Ravens. Next up, this is the 8:00 prime time game on Saturday. Dolphins at Bills. 8:15 p.m. Bias plus score of 11.5 favors the Bills.
So Bills are home. It's going to be cold, guaranteed. It was cold last week up there, and they had bad weather too. I don't know how bad the weather's going to be, but it's definitely going to be cold. So the Dolphins are coming up from Miami into that weather, first of all. So their top-ranked offense rolled into SoFi last week to play the Chargers in a game that I thought was going to be a high-scoring shootout. Turns out it wasn't. The run game betrayed them, and Tua looked a little confused by the Chargers defense. I don't know exactly if they were doing something differently scheme-wise, but Tua didn't seem to be himself. He threw for a mere 145 yards and only one touchdown. Now, in Buffalo, the weather was bad and the footing was slick last week, and the offense wasn't pretty, but it was a balanced attack, and it was good enough to beat the Jets because of the domination of the defense. Defense really turned it on. They recorded 4 sacks on Mike White. Actually, I think did they sack Flacco too? Mike White got hit so many times, he got knocked out of the game twice.
Right.
Okay. He got knocked out, came back, got knocked out again. They're checking him for bad ribs right now. They actually got 8 total quarterback hits on Mike White and Joe Flacco together. They forced 2 turnovers on fumbles. So Dolphins are in a little bit of a bad way right now. Bills defense is playing extremely well. The Dolphins didn't look great against the Chargers defense, so I know they won't look great against the Bills defense. Division matchup or not, got to go with the Bills.
The Bills. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, let's go to Sunday. Chiefs at Texans. Bias plus score 14.5. Another healthy one favors the Chiefs.
Okay, so I know the Cowboys are getting a lot of grief about letting the Texans hang around in their game last week, but I haven't heard much criticism toward the Chiefs after they got lit up by Russell Wilson. The team and the quarterback
by Russell Wilson
who can't score, right. The team that cannot score went to work on the Chiefs defense. Russell Wilson threw 3 touchdown passes, got knocked out of the game with a concussion, got replaced by Brett Rippon, and he threw 1 too. How about that? When you know you have an offense that can almost score at will like the Chiefs do, it's easy to unleash a relentless pass rush. That's the only thing that keeps the Chiefs defense relevant. Now, I shouldn't say that's the only thing like it's a small thing, because it's really not a small thing. It's actually really a big thing. But again, as a whole, I don't give the Chiefs defense the respect that a lot of other people do, but that's just me. So anyway, the Chiefs defense did get off. They sacked Russell Wilson 6 times. They intercepted him once. They sent him out of the game with a concussion, and then they intercepted Rippon too. So even though Rippon and Russell got a chance to throw some touchdown passes, they did get picked. They did get beat up. That being said, I can't say too much about Houston. They gave Dallas a game, but Dallas made a lot of mistakes that helped keep the Texans in the game. They have no chance at home against the Chiefs. Not going to happen. Chiefs win easy.
All right, going with the Chiefs. Benny, you saw that game with the Texans, right?
Yeah, I saw.
Texans made a decision to go for it on fourth rather than kick a field goal. At the end of the game.
I was in a bar. We were watching 3 games at once.
All right.
Well, so this was that late in the game?
This is how I saw it, right? This was late in the game, a minute or so. I mean, coming down to the wire.
Okay.
They're in the red zone, up close, maybe as close as the 10-yard line, like 10th and goal or whatever. But long story short, they could kick a field goal. Instead, they ran some little weak play and it went nowhere. And they turned the ball over on downs to the Cowboys, who then drove down and scored.
Okay.
And because they were up 3 when the Cowboys went down and scored, the Cowboys went up by 4.
Okay.
And so I'm saying to myself, when the Texans, were at the point of making that decision, kick that field goal, take that field goal,
go up 6,
and go up 6.
I got you.
And then if you give up a touchdown, they're only up 1, and you don't have to get in the end zone to beat them.
Right.
You only got to get close enough to kick a field goal.
No, I agree. I agree 100%.
So I didn't understand that, and I recommend that the Texans coach play more Madden because he would be a little more on top of this type of stuff.
Well, I don't know about all that. I think they saw an opportunity to have a big statement win, and they got a little frisky.
Got a little frisky, eh?
Yeah.
Well, in Madden, you get frisky, the Madden gods will punish you.
The NFL football god obviously punished them.
All right, you going with the Chiefs. Giants at Commander. I'm sorry. Let's say it right, Benny. The New York Football Giants. Let's say that right. At the Commanders. Come on, say it with me. Put your chest out. The command. Hey, Benny.
Yes.
The owners met today, and when the question of the Commanders came up and the Commanders being sold, they mentioned that it wouldn't be a partial sale. So if the Commanders are sold, somebody's going to take over 100% of the team.
Dan Snyder will be out.
Completely.
Okay.
So the question in my mind is, you get brand new ownership stepping in. Would they change the name?
That's a good question. They could. Yeah. I know a lot of people don't like Commanders.
I like the Washington football team better than the Commanders.
I actually do too.
We was pretty good with that, So, but Benny, this is a division matchup of the NFC East. Used to be the NFC least. Now it's a tough place to live. It's a tough neighborhood now. You got a bully on the block. And the bias plus score of only 1.5 favors those Commanders.
Only 1.5.
1.5.
So this is a huge game. If this is not intriguing game worthy, I don't know what is. The chance of 3 NFC East teams making the playoffs is still a possibility. How would that be? The division that was being called the NFC least now has a chance to possibly have 3 teams in the playoffs. That would be big. That would be really big. This game may determine if it happens and who it happens to. The Giants scored 22 empty points while they were getting blasted by Philadelphia last week. And Washington is coming off the bye, and their last game was also against the Giants, and that game ended in a tie. I heard some nonsense on television today that said Washington should beat the Giants because of the whooping they took from the Eagles and the fact that Washington had the extra week to prepare for that one game and look at the film over and over again. Come on, man, give me a break. They're NFL football players and coaches. That's their job, to play each game one at a time and prepare during the week and watch film. That loss has nothing to do with what they're going to do in this game. I'm taking the Giants to win this game.
Well, the interesting thing is, for whoever said that, because of the whipping that they took, really, doesn't watch the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings.
Obviously not.
Where people actually are, and that play the part in terms of net points and points against. But bottom line is, the Commanders are not the Eagles. It's no Jalen Hurts leading that team,
right?
However, Heineke is going to be a free agent after this season. And as a matter of fact, if you go to Ben & Barry on Football's Facebook page, I have a list free agent quarterbacks quarterbacks that are going to be free agents in 2023. Pretty long list. So he's playing for the money. He's playing for the money. That's what he's playing for. So Danny Dodge is on that list, I do believe, isn't he?
Probably.
I don't believe he has a contract next year either.
No, they didn't do his option.
Yeah. So he's playing for a bit of a contract too. But Heineke's a little hotter right now, I think, than Danny Dimes. You're going with the Giants, going against the bias.
Yep.
Okay, that's your prerogative. Here you go. Cowboys at Jaguars. Bias plus score 10.9 favors the Cowboys. Cowboys came in what, third place in net points?
Yep.
They were Jaguars was down around 10th, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. So there's your 10. There's your 10 points right there. Your differential. And I do believe that the Cowboys had the turnover differential in their favor also, which probably accounted for like 0.9 or something like that. But in any event, it's about the Cowboys, and they just signed all-time great receiver from the Colts.
Oh, T.Y. Hilton.
Are we going to get to see the T.Y.?
I don't know, man. T.Y. didn't look so great last season. The season before that, he looked like a shot fighter out there, man.
What?
Yeah, I don't know what he's got left. That remains to be seen.
All right.
I think they grabbed him maybe for a little depth. I don't know.
No doubt about it. I mean, because OBJ is not ready to play. I think that's what.
Right. He's not ready to play. Noah Brown and that other dude they got, those guys haven't really stepped up to the plate. Michael Gallup has started to come alive. That's a good thing, but I know they want a third guy that they can depend on. So that's probably why they got T.Y. Hill.
Yeah, you bring him in, Hey, look.
Whether or not he can actually take over that spot, I don't know.
We shall see, but who you got?
Well, Dak and the boys turned in a real clunker last week against Houston. They look bad. They did look bad. Now they pulled it out. They had to drive 98 yards for Zeke to finally score with 41 seconds left in the game to finally put the Texans away 27-23. Like you said, things might have been different if Houston had kicked the field goal instead of going for it and failing and giving them the opportunity to put together their drive. But it was a nice drive. I think he actually had 2 pretty nice drives in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the Jaguars turned in a surprising victory over division leading Tennessee. That was a big, big win for them in a division that we kind of, well, I know I kind of thought Tennessee was going to run away with. Tennessee had only beaten, they only beat Tennessee one time in their last 10 meetings. How crazy is that? So that was an even bigger win for the Jags than I at first thought. Trevor Lawrence was stellar in this one. He went 30 of 42, 368 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He looked really, really good. And the defense, which kind of absorbed 121 yards on 21 Derrick Henry carries, forced and recovered 3 fumbles and intercepted Ryan Tannehill. They sacked him 4 times. They hit him 9 times. So even though Derrick Henry kind of got off, they still did damage in the passing game. Their defense looked really good. Trevor Lawrence looked really good. This could be a trap game for the Cowboys, but what's the bias again?
10.9.
10.9. I'm taking the Jags at home.
Oh my goodness.
That'll make Cowboys fans happy.
All right, going against the bias big time. Going with the Jaguars over the Cowboys. Okay. Well, it's interesting. Again, our friend Mark called me, asked me about Michael Parsons. Apparently, he had something to say about Jalen Hurts and whether and the MVP is whether it was Jalen or whether it was the team. But he recently had something to say about the whole about the what's her name being released from Russian prison, the female basketball player.
Yeah, so he puts his foot in his mouth in reference to Brittany Griner and has to come back and issue an apology. Then he turns right around and puts his foot in his mouth again in reference to Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm sure there's probably some Dallas fans that might agree with what he said. But if you're a real football fan and you really watch football and you've watched the maturation and improvement that Jalen Hurts has gone through, and I'm a Giants fan talking about this, you're crazy if you think he's playing as well as he is because of their scheme. This guy I've heard people say they've never seen one player, especially a quarterback, improve this much over the course of a season. Jalen Hurts last year and Jalen Hurts this year is night and day. This guy went to work in the offseason. He has completely changed himself. His accuracy, his decision-making, even his vision on his runs. Everything's better. Everything's better. He's the MVP front runner. I don't care what nobody says.
I think they're trying to make it like comparing him to Mahomes and saying that he's got a better overall team, better receivers than what Mahomes had. Mahomes lost his number 1 receiver, and yet they're still putting up big points. And they're giving a lot of that credit to Mahomes. And I think that's kind of where Parsons was trying to go too. But long story short, I agree with you 100%. I am so impressed with Jalen Hurts. Always, like I told Mark, we are football fans first, and you got to recognize when someone's performing at that level,
Right.
So, that's a football level. I don't care what color jersey he has on, but he is in a scheme that complements him, and that's
no doubt. No doubt.
To the credit of the coaching.
You have to give the coaching staff the whole bunch of credit, man. They built this team around him. They did what some teams talk about but don't actually do. They said, you're our guy until you prove to us that you're not our guy. So we're going to give you every opportunity. This is what the Giants don't do or haven't done. We're going to give you every opportunity to prove to us that you're our quarterback of the future. Otherwise, we're coming into a draft and we may have to look for a quarterback. So we're going to give you all the tools you need. That move for A.J. Brown was humongous. Devontae Smith is healthy. Who's the number one receiver on the Eagles?
We got two number ones.
Exactly.
We got two number ones. Yeah, no doubt about
exactly.
it. Exactly.
They're so strong. They're so strong on offense that I picked up Quez Watkins for one of my fantasy teams. Just on the whim that he could have a game or two like Isaiah McKenzie had for the Bills. You know what I mean? One of them games when they're doubling AJ and Devontae catches 7 passes and then Quez is open all day and they hit him with 2 bombs and 2 scores and I get a big fantasy win off of him. I'm telling you, that's how strong the Eagles are.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. If you add in the lines and all of that kind of stuff, how they've strengthened themselves and right there, all on defense. I mean,
the only thing that I as far as I'm concerned, they don't have any weaknesses. But there's the only thing that I would say that could possibly be a weakness that could rear its head later is they don't tackle real well. That's all I can think of.
Well, at one point we thought maybe they might be a little light in the caboose also.
Yeah, I don't think they hit a lot in practice either.
That might be true. That might be true. It's interesting, Ben. And while we were talking about Jalen Hurts and the MVP race, I just went to the Madden ratings just to see what the difference is. Mm-hmm. Overall, Jalen Hurts is rated 84. Patrick Mahomes is 97. And
that's got to be fixed.
Well, it'll be updated now. Speed, acceleration, strength, and agility all go to Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Awareness goes to Patrick. They have Jalen at 82 and Patrick at 96.
I'm sure I know what that is too. He has a lot of success. Mahomes has a lot of success on what they call off-platform throws. Jalen doesn't have a lot of off-platform throws because his offensive line protects him so much, and he is a dual threat quarterback, not a scrambler. Mahomes is a scrambler. He could be a dual threat quarterback, but he's a scrambler. He makes time to make throws. And that sometimes means he's going to throw that little underhand thing or the little pitch or the jump ball. You're going to see him do stuff like that. So I'm sure that brings his awareness numbers up.
Okay. All right. I hear you with your Madden analysis, Mr. Non-Madden.
Yeah.
I hear you. All right. Well, we're talking so much about Jalen. I must have pushed the button here because we got the Eagles at the Bears. Look at the bias on Brad. Look at the big bias. Bias plus score 20.6 favors the Eagles. And I think that might be the biggest bias of the weekend.
Oh, really?
I haven't seen anything bigger yet.
Okay. All right.
And again, I've compared Justin Fields physically to Jalen Hurts. I think they're very much about same size and physical capability, strength, speed, all of those types of things. Both of them can take off, man, and
I would agree with that. Obviously, Hurts has improved immensely in his accuracy. Justin still could, get a little bit better with that. But physically, their physical makeup, skill set, speed, stuff like that. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. And again, when you start to talk about the team around them for Justin Fields, it's not the same team.
No, not at all.
It's not
at all. Yeah, Hurts threw for 2 touchdowns and ran for another one last week. Miles Sanders ran for 144 yards and 2 scores. And the defense sacked Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. Oh, Tyrod Taylor got in the game too, by the way. Sacked both of them a combined 7 times. This team has no weaknesses. 12 total quarterback hits. Dominating performance, both sides of the ball. Eagles look strong. The Bears are coming off the bye. Justin Fields played pretty well the week before. I can't remember who they played, but I do remember he came back healthy in that game, and he actually played pretty well. They probably lost the game. Chicago is hosting. The people in Chicago are going to get a chance to see what a real quarterback looks like. Take the Eagles in this one.
Bias plus score 20.6 favors the Eagles. Ben's going with the Eagles. Steelers at Panthers. Bias plus score of 2 favors the Panthers.
Ah,
Panthers.
How do you like that?
Yeah, baby.
Sam Darnold, baby.
Yeah. What's the coach? What's the coach name again?
Wilkes.
Steve Wilkes.
Yes. I'm cheering for him, man. I hope he gets the interim tag taken off and they make him the real head coach. I'm hoping they do it before the season ends, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
Or at least at season's end, so that he can start off next season as the head guy with no questions. I would like to see that. I hope that happens. Starting quarterback for the Steelers, Kenny Pickett, sustained a concussion in the first quarter last week in Baltimore. He was replaced by our old buddy, Mitchell Trubisky, who actually moved the ball pretty effectively at times during the game. Unfortunately, he threw 3 interceptions. All of them were at the end of drives in Ravens territory. So again, Trubisky ended up big time, turning the ball over. That's what's wrong with this guy. I don't know what the Steelers are going to do with this guy. I really don't. They got to keep him now, though, because Pickett's got to go to concussion protocol. Not to mention, the Steelers defense gave up 215 yards on the ground.
Ooh.
Ugly. Yeah, the Ravens went to work on them boys. Carolina's defense, they'll be at home. Carolina's defense caught the Seahawks without their starting running back, Kenny Walker III, who we talked about earlier. And they put the clamps on his replacements while sacking Geno Smith 3 times and intercepting him twice. Kudos go to quarterback Sam Darnold, who finds himself starting again after the Panthers released Baker Mayfield. He's been very careful with the ball, and he rode his running game to victory last week. I think the Panthers are going to put the smack down on the Steelers at home to the delight of their suffering fans. Take the Panthers.
Take the Panthers. All right. Going with the Panthers, going with the bias. Next up, Lions at Jets. This actually looked to be also a intriguing game to me, Benny.
You think so?
Yeah. Bias plus score 9.2 favors the Lions. You got Mike White versus Jared Goff. And you know, it's funny. I was just thinking about how fortunes have changed for Jared Goff, now the quarterback for the Lions, and Matt Stafford, now the quarterback for the Rams. You know, I mean, I don't think the Lions are going to win the Super Bowl like the Rams did, but I mean, this year the Lions are truly outperforming in terms of offense production versus the Rams. So
That is true.
Has definitely got to get his kudos for that.
And just looking at the two of them, I mean, let's face it, Goff is still young. Stafford's getting old.
Okay. On the Jets side, you got that Jet defense with your favorite cornerback there.
Saucy. Yep. But we got to really get serious now and start watching out for the Detroit Lions. They are without a doubt making a run for a playoff spot. They've won 5 of their last 6. They defeated NFC North Division leading Minnesota. Big win for them. Jared Goff went toe-to-toe with Kirk Cousins. Goff is really dialed in with his big play wide receiver group, which I don't think their wide receivers get enough credit. Any of these guys can make a big play on you. Amon St. Brown, DJ Shark, who they got away from the Jaguars last year, and Josh Reynolds is playing really well too, especially on the deep ball. And to top it off, now they got back rookie speedster Jameson Williams, who had a couple nice catches last week, hasn't had a chance to show off yet. He got hurt. He played for Alabama, got hurt in the national championship game last year before he got drafted. The Lions drafted him anyway, put him on IR, left him there, let him get healthy, and now he's back. This guy is super freaking fast, bro.
Really?
He is a speed burner.
What's his name again?
Jameson Williams. He's a small guy, just like Devontae Smith. Small and fast, just like Devontae.
Okay.
Okay. Oh yeah, the Jets. Jets finally get to come home. Quarterback Mike White took a beating last week from the Buffalo defense. He got sacked 3 times. He got hit 8 times. He got knocked out of the game twice. They're looking at bad ribs. I don't think he practiced today. They look like they were going to make a playoff run, but now they've lost 4 of their last 6 games. I think the Jets are in a little bit of trouble, bro. I really do. Sauce can't cover all them receivers. I'm taking the Lions to win this one.
Going with the Lions, going with the bias 9.2. All right, next up we have Falcons at Saints.
Oh, boy. Jeez.
Oh, I got that X in there again. Hey, bias plus score 3.5 favors the Falcons, and this is a division game, I do believe.
Yes,
NFC
it is.
South?
Yes, NFC South. And I said earlier, this division is not settled yet. In fact, let me look over here. The Buccaneers are sitting in the lead at 6-7. The Panthers and the Falcons are both 5-8. The Saints are 4-9. So the Saints are kind of on the outside looking in. The Panthers and the Falcons, with a couple of upset wins here and there, and the Buccaneers struggling the way that they are, who knows who's going to win this division? There will definitely only be one team in that division coming into the playoffs, and that will be the division winner, and we do not know who that's going to be. Now, like I said, the Falcons are 5-8, the Saints are 4-9, and both teams are coming off the bye. This is anybody's ball game, but I like the Falcons in this one.
Going with the Falcons, eh?
Yes, sir.
Going with the bias 3.5. Next up, Cardinals at Broncos. Bias plus score 2.9 favors the Broncos. How often have the Broncos been favored this year?
Yeah, I know.
Jeez, Cardinals.
That tells you a little something about the Cardinals, doesn't it?
Yeah, yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Man.
Go ahead. Tell me what you want to tell me about this.
The Cardinals are struggling badly to the point where people are talking about who's going to outlast who in the organization between Kyler Murray, the head coach Cliff Kingsbury, and the GM Steve Keim. They all signed contract extensions. People are starting to wonder in the next 2 or 3 years who's going to still be there and who's not. That's how bad they've been looking. Now, Murray got himself a season-ending knee injury, non-contact injury on real grass. Ooh.
Real grass.
Real grass. Just goes to show you can go down any old kind of way. Backup Colt McCoy, who I respect a lot, actually came in and played pretty well. Problem is, Cardinals defense isn't very strong. In fact, if I remember correctly, when we were doing the ratings, they were way down. And their offense can't really move the ball consistently.
Ben,
yes.
Way down doesn't describe it. They're ranked 32nd on defense.
Okay, that's bottom.
That's
they
it.
are the worst defense as far as points against is concerned, correct?
Yep.
Okay, well, that tells the story. Guess what?
Here you go. You know you're in bad company when The two teams directly above you, 31 and 30, are Detroit and Seattle.
Okay, I can't let you talk bad about Detroit though.
I'm just telling you the facts. Detroit is in 31st
I get
place
it. I get it.
defensively. I'm
I
just
get
telling
it.
you.
I get it.
And their twin sister Seattle is right there with them at 30.
I get it. Now, Denver, by the way, delivered their best offensive performance in weeks, but even their sturdy defense couldn't handle the onslaught from the Kansas City offense. So that was out of the question. But they did put some points up. I remember, I believe it was just last week, if not the week before, I was so disgusted with Denver that I said I would not
Yeah, you did make some
right.
kind
I
of
would not predict a win for them, regardless of who they were going to play. But I tell you what, I think hopefully Russell's okay and gets through concussion protocol this week, because I want to see him do it. I want to see him beat the Cardinals. This is a game the Broncos can win.
Well, we know how good their defense is. We talked about that when we looked at the net point rankings. As a matter of fact, just looking at it real quick, Denver came in fourth.
Right.
What's really kind of messing with my mind is you're talking about how many points they scored last week. But I guess it's because we're now 14 games in, and when you averaged it in, it didn't move the needle much, and they're still in last place, averaging only 14.9 points per game. So they had a good game, but their average didn't, it got averaged into a 14-week season, so it didn't move
Yeah,
them that
so they
much.
were averaging basically 2 touchdowns a game, and they got 4 in that game.
So they got an extra couple decimal points when you divide it by 14.
Yeah.
Long story short, you're going to go with the Broncos here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, going with the bias. 2.9 favors the Broncos.
Silly me.
Go back on his proclamation about the Broncos, and he's rooting for Russell to come back and show up the Kylerless. You're going to show up Colt McCoy? Is Colt okay?
Colt McCoy is fine.
Okay, good. All right. Man, you better watch out for Colt, man.
No, I know. I respect Colt McCoy. I do.
Messing around with Colt McCoy. Bengals at Buccaneers. Bias plus score 9.3 favors. Guess. The Bengals.
Bengals, okay.
Yeah, you know it. I mean, what are the Bengals, man? When you look at them in the rankings, they're right up in the top 10. Matter of fact, the Bengals, Cincinnati came in at 6. So we know that the Buccaneers are net point wise or what? Were they in the middle? Or they in the lower? They're in the lower third.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they're surging.
No, they were 19th.
Okay.
So that must be the surge. Got them from the lower third into the middle.
Yes, they're surging. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, they're making a run for the AFC North title. They're playing really strong lately. They had just enough to handle the Browns last week for their 5th straight win. They are now 9-4, and the Ravens are also 9-4. So they're tied with the same record. I think the Ravens get the nod for the first place spot right now, but the Bengals are coming on strong. Joe Burrow threw 2 touchdowns, and Joe Mixon just came back off a concussion protocol and ran for 96 yards on 14 carries. That was a nice little comeback coming off a concussion. Not too many carries, but he almost broke 100 yards. So I know they're glad to have Joe Mixon back. That balances the offense out a little bit. And not to mention Jamar Chase had quite a day, 119 yards. I think he had 10 catches, 119 yards, and a touchdown. It was a tough day for Tom Brady and the Bucs. They only scored 1 touchdown. They turned the ball over 3 times, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery. Can't win like that. Mm-hmm. Can't win like that. I say the Bucs. I say the Bucs disappoint my daughter. And Cincinnati goes down and beats them. They will not be firing the cannons.
They'll be cannon fodder is what they'll be. They won't be firing them. They'll be cannon fodder if that happens. They showed the receiver. What's the receiver? Just came back for the Bengals.
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase. I guess this was early in the game. They threw a ball out to the flat to him, and the defensive player came up and laid a hit on him. Defensive guy's helmet flew off and everything.
Wow.
And my man on Good Morning Football, they used to play with the Patriots, McCourty. He's got this segment that he calls Ooh Wee, where somebody makes the hit. And he's like,
I like that. Ooh wee.
Yeah. And he had that hit on there, and he was talking about the hit, and then he had to admit, yeah. And then afterwards, Jamar Chase like put up like 10 receptions and some
Yeah.
So you got the hit in, but Jamar Chase won the war, no doubt about it, on that one. And I expect him to win this one also. It's gonna be tough for Brady, man. All right, so tell me right now, you think he's coming back next year?
I have no idea, bro. I have no idea. Their team just isn't what it was. It's just not the same. It's not Brady, although he's not playing exceptionally well either, but it's a team effort. Their defense is nowhere near as good as they were last year. And it's crazy because it seems like it's the same people, but they had a lot of injuries. People are leaving, coming back, getting hurt, getting healthy, back and forth, back and forth. You're not the only person that mentioned Gronk. In fact, he got interviewed by somebody this week, and he mentioned something about he knows if he was there, he could help Brady in the red zone. And somebody also said, by the way, let's not forget what a great run blocker Gronk was too, at the line and downfield. So I don't know if that's a precursor to him thinking about trying to come back. I don't know. But he did mention football, and he hasn't talked about football all season as far as I know.
Well, they give him enough money. What is
it?
Yeah. Week 15, you got what, 3 regular season games?
Yeah.
Come in, get tuned up for the postseason. If you can make it into the postseason, and then you get some of that bonus money.
Sure.
So
they have to make it worth his while, though.
Make it worth his while. And, obviously, as I say, Tampa Tom needs a Gronkowski. He just needs a Gronkowski. It's like the Avengers without the Hulk. It's just good, but those
not quite the same.
Not quite the same. All right, going with the Bengals and the bias of 9.3. Another game. Titans at Chargers. Bias plus score 2.3 favors the Chargers. What is going on with King Henry?
What is going on with King Henry? King Henry actually played fairly well last week.
Did he?
Yeah. The problem is the Titans turned the ball over 4 times.
Well, he did. He was one of them.
He had a fumble.
Yeah.
Young Jags defense sacked Tannehill 4 times, and they got 4 turnovers.
Matter of fact, the hit on Derrick Henry was also in the ooh wee segment.
You gotta love it. Gotta love it. On top of that, the Titans defense had no answer for Doug Peterson's offense. They got torched by Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence went to work on them boys. So the Titans are struggling right now, trying to hold on to first place in their division. It's going to get rough, man. It's going to get rough down there. You got to be able to throw the ball. You cannot live off of Derrick Henry because teams have proven that if they put their minds to it, they can slow him down and possibly you can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. But they have showed that he has been contained. So if they don't start to pick up their passing game and their defense is starting to show cracks, this could be some trouble for the Titans. They go to SoFi. They play the Chargers in LA. The Chargers defense effectively slowed down the number one Dolphins passing game, and Justin Herbert lit up their secondary, completing 37 of 51 passes. This guy's throwing 51 passes. I don't know what's going on with their run game. Eckler's been playing really well all season, but early in the season, I think you might remember me mentioning something about Austin Eckler being on the side of a milk carton. Then all of a sudden he showed up and he had a string of great games, breaking 100 yards, scoring touchdowns, catching passes. Then they start relying on Justin Herbert real heavily again. I think it was probably because the Miami defense, their secondary looked weak, and they knew that Herbert was hot and he was having his way with them. But anyway, 37 to 51 isn't tremendous, but he did throw for 367 yards and a touchdown. So now the Titans got to go in LA and play the Chargers. Looks like their offense is heating up. I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one.
Going with the bias, going with the Chargers.
Yep.
All right. You think we're going to see Malik Willis before the end of the year?
Nope. Not unless Tannehill gets hurt.
Patriots at Raiders by a split score 4.8 favors the Patriots. Solid football team.
Yeah.
Solid, if not outstanding, but solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
hey, look, they're in the top 10 in net points.
After showing a lot of promise in his rookie season last year. Yeah, they are because of their defense. What I was going to say was last year, Mac Jones showed a lot of promise in his rookie season. He wasn't great. We were still calling him mac and cheese, but he kind of showed that he could possibly develop into a pretty good quarterback. He's been barely mediocre this season. And so has the entire New England offense. Pretty much Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, is the best thing they got going for them right now. The receivers are up and down. They don't have a clear-cut number one. It was Jacoby Myers. Now he can't stay healthy. Aguilar catches a couple balls here and there. The defense, however, has been pretty good, and they turned in a real strong performance that helped them defeat the Cardinals last week, even though the Cardinals have their own issues. But they did pick off backup quarterback Colt McCoy one time, and they did sack him 6 times. So the Patriots defense needs to be reckoned with. Now, as far as the Raiders are concerned, they go back home to host this game back in LA. Derek Carr and the Raider offense all of a sudden forgot how to find the end zone. I don't know what happened to them. The last couple of weeks, they were looking really good. They lost to the Rams. It broke a 3-game win streak. They were really turning it on, man. I was surprised. I was like, hey, they're making this AFC West heat back up again. Then they looked terrible. Carr threw 2 interceptions. He didn't throw any touchdowns, and that left the door open for Baker Mayfield to drive the Rams down and get the win over them. Very disappointing for the Raiders. I want to say the Patriots go in there and beat them, but I'm not going to. I think the Raiders will bounce back. I don't know what the heck happened to them last week. I don't know if they underestimated the Rams or what. Knowing their situation with Baker coming in late, not getting a chance to know the whole playbook. Excuse me, and their other quarterback, Wolford, was already injured with a bad neck or shoulder or something. I think the Raiders thought they were going to come in and walk over them, and they got surprised. So I expect them to bounce back. I'm going to take the Raiders. Had to think about
going against the bias, going against that solid football team, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders.
Oh, man, you get soft in your old age, man. I don't know.
What the hell's that soft? I'm the one sticking my neck out.
Yeah, you sure are. That's what I'm saying. It's got to be a sentimental. What are you feeling sorry for?
No, it's not sentimental. I respect the Raiders. I respect Josh Jacobs. And I respect Derek Carr. And that 3-game win streak was very impressive. And I think they just slipped and they'll get it together.
Well, you might be right. Over the last 3 weeks, the Raiders are +4 net points, and the New England Patriots are -2.3.
Right.
So you might have a little something going momentum-wise for you. We shall see. Next up, Rams at Packers. Superstar swimming at the bottom of the pond. 2 superstars. Rams at Packers. Bias plus score 4.2 favors the Packers.
This one won't be too tough. Rams got to go to Green Bay after a feel-good 1-point win over the Raiders, engineered by their new starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Yes, he will start this week. With only a couple of days to learn as much of the playbook as he could, and then getting detailed instructions spoken into his helmet before plays by head coach Sean McVay. He was actually calling plays and then explaining detailed information about the plays within the short period of time that they allow them to keep the mic on in his helmet. And Mayfield did the rest. He led the Rams on 2 scoring drives to finish off the Raiders. One was for 75 yards, one was for 98 yards. The Packers are coming off the bye. The last time we saw them, they finished off a road win against Chicago. I think that the Rams got a little lucky last week, caught the Raiders when they were down. They're going to go to Green Bay, and Baker's going to come back down to earth. I'm taking the Packers.
I forgot about the Baker situation last week, and I watched the game. I saw him come in, and he's Baker, man. He's always.
Oh, it was amazing what he did, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
he actually, they sent him the playbook so he could study it on the plane ride to LA. So he started studying the playbook right away before he even arrived. Then he had one practice, because they played on Thursday, right?
And Baker said, hey, how many coaches, how many offensive coordinators I played for in the last 2 years or whatever,
Exactly.
Like, I do this routinely. It ain't no big thing. So he's gonna start again this week against against Aaron Rodgers, eh?
Yes.
All right. Let's see if he can bake the Rodgers here. Oh man, was that Monday night?
Yeah, I think that is the Monday night game. Yes.
That was the Monday night game. Oh my goodness. I hate when I do that and not realize that, we were there at Monday night and making sure that we give it the proper fanfare, much less Sunday night. But in any event, you were talking about the coach for the Panthers, and the Carolina Panthers are the bias plus buster of the week through week 14 with an unfavorable bias.
Good job. Kudos to Steve Wilkes, who has been a head coach before. He was the head coach of the Cardinals. The Cardinals were not very good at the time he was there. They didn't do too much to help him out as far as improving the roster. And he barely got in 1 year, and they fired him really fast. Didn't really give him a chance. I didn't think that was very fair, but I've seen that happen before. So hopefully this will be his second chance to lock down a head coaching job, and I'm rooting for him.
Well, the way to get the locker room on your side is to be the bias plus buster of the week and get that bias plus score higher than anybody else. And like I said, it wasn't too many. This was only one of the 2 games that the bias plus, did not get for last week. So, and I think that Rams game was the other one.
Yeah.
Couple real surprises. And that's why when I hear them talk about do they really have a chance? I mean, I say, yeah, everybody got a chance. And the funny thing about our girl Cynthia Freeland, when she makes these picks, she gives scores, but everything has a percentage chance. So it's like, I expect that the Panthers will beat the Rams by a score of 24-22 with a
Right.
52% chance of being correct.
Yeah, right.
So but there's all these
I
little
don't even know
hedges.
why they bother to give scores, to tell you the truth, but I guess it has something to do with trying to convince you to bet the point spread one way or the other. I'm just assuming that. I don't know.
Well, that wraps up this portion of the Ben and Barry show with the Bias Plus reports and the Bias Buster of the week. Again, congratulations to the Carolina Panthers. Let's pause it for a moment. We'll take a quick look at our social media page. Okay, Benny. So in this section, we're just going to go back to the Ben and Barry Facebook page. We're going to touch on a few current events that happen and some things that we have posted on the page that we'd like to make sure that people know are there. How about the money, Benny? How about who are the 30 richest NFL quarterbacks of all time, not just current playing, ranked in order? We ran across that a little bit when we did the backup quarterbacks because wasn't it the backup for the Jets had a net, he had like a
Flacco. Yeah, well, Flacco won a Super Bowl.
yeah, I think he has like a paid like 140 million paid to him already or something like that. So he's no normal backup in terms of his net worth, but that's there. All right, Benny, how about your Heisman 2022 Heisman Trophy? What'd you think about that one? Caleb Williams?
I was a little surprised at that one. Just a little. I'm a CJ. I'm a CJ Stroud guy. I think Stroud has put together a better season than Caleb Williams. But it's cool. They need to change the Heisman to instead of a guy that looks like a running back, they need to put a different statue together and make it a quarterback because that's the only guys that ever win it.
Okay, all right, you got a point there. A comment on the Heisman statue needs to be changed. Only on Ben and Barry do we say stuff like that. All right, so there was a question about the limit of concussions with Kenny Pickett, and whether or not it's time. Like, if you get like 2 concussions or 3 concussions, like, is there a number? It's like, okay, if you reach 7 concussions, you can't play for like a month or something like that, or ever this season, for the rest of the season. So apparently Kenny's picking up concussions left and right. And I don't know if he had any, excuse me, you might know more about this if he had any in college.
I'm sure he did. He started and played 4 years.
Yeah.
My question is, what is the answer to that question? Is there an actual limit?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But I
think
know the doctors say, because you remember when Tua got 2 in 2 weeks, they were like, yo, that's really bad.
But they didn't stop him from playing.
No, well, that's why there was a big controversy. Right. But my thing is, every concussion you get makes it easier for you to get another one.
Okay. Sounds reasonable.
So when you look at it that way, yeah, you really should start to count the number. I know Montana had a lot of concussions. I'm trying to think. Elway had a good number, but these guys had long and illustrious careers. So what are you going to do?
Well, next up, we just want to give some congrats to Maria Taylor. She will be leading the NBC's Big Ten college football coverage as its studio host. It says here that she's hosted the NFL Draft, the NBA Finals, Tokyo Summer Olympics, the Super Bowl, and the Beijing Winter Olympics. So Maria Taylor, getting it done. You familiar with Maria, Benny?
Yes, they really like Maria. They give Maria all types of big time jobs. She's hot right now.
Okay. Who but BBF gave you the full accounting of all the backup quarterbacks in the league? We did. It says here from Bailey Zappi to Cooper Rush, which backup quarterbacks have kept their teams afloat? This has been called the year of the backup, Benny. The year of the backup. The backups have really played a part, and now they're getting down to the third string. And in Baltimore's case, guys that aren't even in the depth chart.
Yeah, it's been quite a few.
Get that guy from the third row. Bring him on over here. Now, this, Ben, has been big news all week. This is the Mike Leach, dead at 61. You're more of a college guy than I am, but I've been like reading so much about Mike Leach and watching so much about Mike Leach since his death. It's almost kind of weird to really get to know this guy this well post-mortem. But as soon as you start talking about the air raid offense, which you and I picked up on early when it came to the NFL, with Cliff Kingsbury, then you look at that, and that's one of his proteges, or in his tree, as they like to say, his coaching tree.
Not only his coaching tree, Kingsbury played for him.
There you go. So I just want to say again, rest in peace. Apparently he was a piece of work, a really fun guy. He traveled extensively, made friends everywhere. And I put there is in the comments, Ben, a link here, and it's the Texas Tech offensive playbook. So if you want to get into air raid offenses, you got a playbook that you can actually look at. One of the things one of the people who were talking about him, very close to him, he said, look up mesh. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I know that. I have plays in my playbook with the Niners that are mesh plays.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, wait a minute. I'm playing some form of Mike Leach air raid offense and not even know it, because when you look at that mesh that's in there, and I've always liked that. And I include it, especially if I'm in a situation where I could run the ball. You can run a mesh, and it's a short, your two guys are crossing so short that if you can complete it, you got a first down if you're only looking for 3-4 yards. So it works real well, especially against man-to-man. But,
right.
So Mike Leach left a serious football legacy. Like I said, there's not many people that you call a bolt of personality and a football savant.
Right.
So that's pretty heavy there. All right. Moving right along, I mentioned how Jerry Rice had said, please stop running our skill players up the middle to the coach. And that's the GOAT. That is the GOAT.
Jerry got an awful lot to say now that he's retired.
There you go. Well, he got time to say that stuff now. Like you and me with the show. Maybe we can get him to come on.
Yeah, right.
I have to check.
I'd love to do that.
Hey, there you go. Well, congratulations to T.C. Taylor. He takes over for one primetime Deion Sanders. That's some serious shoes to fill as the next head coach for Jackson State University's football team. Anything on him?
Just that Prime recommended him for the job, and I believe he was the he was the offensive coordinator, right?
I don't know if he was offensive coordinator. I do know he was on the staff.
Yeah, he was the offensive coordinator. So, of course, he's going to have to get himself a quarterback. But Prime groomed him, brought him in, had him work under Mike Zimmer, right? Because didn't Prime have Zimmer on his staff?
Yeah, I do believe.
Okay, so he's ready.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to some results here from that. Is it too early? It says here 2023 NFL free agent rankings, top 25 players set to enter free agency. Oh, you should see this list. I'm not even going to click on it here, Benny. Lots of free agents. That's what I was telling you. Heineke's playing for a contract,
Yeah.
right now. And they're saying if he plays well, he could make some nice money,
Well, Well, he's playing pretty well. I mean, let's face it, they don't have a strong team, but they've won some games and they've been impressive. And a lot of it has to do with him.
Has to do with Heineke, absolutely. So there you are. We talked about that. So that's pretty much it. Benny says here, thank you for following. Please leave comments and suggestions. Hashtag football is life. That is our hashtag. Woo! Okay, we put in some work tonight, man. You have any final words?
Who knows?
Go Knowles.